Hi, my name is Courtney Cratchwell, and my field experience is in both a school and private clinic currently. After graduating and passing the FBA exam, I plan on continuing my practice in both schools and private clinics, as well as outreach programs such as home sessions. As for pre-COVID, I did a lot of home sessions. Unfortunately, right now, my field experience does not include home sessions. However, I believe these allow parents that may be working or have other children to still be able to access ABA services for their child. As far as my experience with behavioral assessments, I have experience assisting with and conducting VB MAP assessments. However, I do not have much experience with FBAs or FAs other than doing assignments for FBAs and like a practice FBA for another course. We use behavioral assessments for a multitude of reasons. For some of the reasons we use them to measure a child's performance on communication, language, social skills, and we use benchmarks to measure to see where they are performing. And it also allows us to give an approximate developmental age for each skill to see where they are at. And then this information is really useful as it can help, especially in school settings, help to determine individualized goals and objectives. Now, functional behavioral assessment is the most commonly recommended response to several student behavior challenges. So when a student is beginning to or has been engaging in a problem behavior and it becomes severe, many times a FBA or FA will be conducted. So, FBA approach is the cornerstone of systems that address the educational programming of students who display the most significant and challenging problem behavior, as stated by Ennis et al. So, these students require behavioral support plans that are specialized and individualized to their specific needs. Therefore, these plans must be based on information about the nature of the problem behavior and the environmental context in which the behavior is being observed. The FBA allows for this information to be collected to not only identify the function of the behavior, but as well as a suitable replacement behavior for the problem behavior that is being observed. So as I was saying, FBA approach provides a systematic and informed means by which targeted interventions can be developed and monitored. Functional behavioral assessments, or FBA, indicated interventions are designed to support students by determining the function, for example, what they are trying to access or what they are trying to avoid, as we see a lot of students may engage in problem behaviors when a demand is placed on them and they want to avoid that demand, so they may engage in hitting, biting, etc. So we want to support students by determining the function of their problem behavior and then teaching the reinforcing appropriate replacement behaviors that serve the same function. So as I was saying, students that may be trying to avoid a demand or something that they find challenging, they may begin engaging in hitting or biting. We could use the replacement behavior of them simply requesting to take a break or asking for additional help when these challenging tasks are presented. And this will allow the student to still be presented with this task. However, they won't engage in the problem behaviors of hitting or biting once they're introduced to the replacement behavior of requesting for a break while doing the challenging task. Now, an FBA must be conducted whenever the Individualized Education Program, also known as IEP, team determines that a student's behavior is interfering with his or her learning or the learning of others, and requires additional information to provide appropriate educational programming. So a lot of students have special ed students have an IEP. However, as stated, when the behavior begins interfering with either his or her learning or the learning of others in the class, the IEP team can notify that an FBA must be conducted for the student so they can identify the function of the behavior and get the suitable and appropriate replacement behavior for that individual. Now, we've been discussing a lot about FBAs. There is FBAs, which is functional behavioral assessment, and then FAs, which are functional analysis. There are differences between the two. A functional behavioral assessment will include all the different ways to learn about the behavior by testing behavior directly and ways that do not test the behavior directly. So this would include reviewing data that already exists, interviewing anyone that works closely with the individual, observations of the behavior without testing anything directly. So this would include further ABC data. Now, on the other hand, a functional analysis is a scientific way of trying it and seeing what happens. So this involves testing how certain changes impact the current occurrence of the problem behavior. So this does not include the observations that would be included in an FBA. These would be simple trial and error situations where you would see how a behavior would respond to a change in the environment. Now, the current organization that I work for conducts both FBAs and FAs. However, since I have been employed with this organization, I've noticed that mostly FBAs are conducted more so than FAs, though FAs are conducted because it is very important to find the function of the behavior, and FBAs sometimes can be lengthy in time, so therefore FAs can sometimes be quicker and more beneficial when you're just to try to find the function of the behavior and test out certain things that may or may not work. Now, for FBAs, the steps my organization takes to conduct an FBA is first they begin by defining the undesirable behavior using clear and concise terms, which, as we all know, that's mostly the first step we do for anything when we're taking data on a behavior, we want to make sure that our operational definition is clear and concise on that behavior. Next, we collect data. Data is collected by both observing the behavior as well as gathering information from those that work closely with the individual, gathering further ABC data. All of that data is taken into consideration when conducting an FBA. Next, we determine the function of the behavior. So as an FA determines the function of behavior, an FBA determines the function of behavior as well. There are just additional steps before we would determine the function of the behavior and put in those replacement behaviors. Next, we would design an intervention that is appropriate for the function of the behavior. After we determine and design an intervention that is appropriate, we would teach the replacement behavior to the individual. And while conducting all of this and conducting the FBA, we want to ensure that we are explaining to all involved the FBA procedures to ensure consistency across environments and staff. When there's consistency, we see a greater likelihood of the intervention being successful because the individual is receiving that consistency. The intervention is being implemented correctly across all environments, all staff members. Lastly, I would like to continue to get more experience with FBAs and FAs, as well as to hopefully conduct my own FBA and FAs under the supervision of my supervisors, as well as just continuing to learn more about the appropriate times to conduct an FBA and the benefits of conducting an FBA over an FA, because as I said, an FBA can take several weeks to fully conduct and fully gather all the data and information to determine the function of the behavior. So I would just like to gather some more information, and for my fellow classmates, the question I have for you is, if you have experience conducting or assisting in conducting an FBA or FA, what benefits have you observed from conducting an FBA over an FA, or vice versa? Thanks for watching. Have a great day.